Well, in the immortal words of Palpatine,
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
what up everyone, I'm Galanovic and I am reviewing a movie for once. Originally I thought I was only going to do video game reviews and the odd fun video here and there, but this time I'm branching out, and mainly because this is something very near and dear to my heart. Today we are talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Now I've been seeing many mixed opinions on the movie, overall. Many of which despised the movie, but a select few who liked it. And I belong on that side of the spectrum. I enjoyed it. Very much. But that does not mean the movie was flawless by any means. There were quite a few parts that I myself disagreed with. Pacing issues, some inconsistencies, some plot points that had to be explained, but you know, it'll probably be covered in the books. The biggest element that fans both enjoyed and hated was the overusage of fan service. And while that part was cool, it didn't entirely save the movie. There were quite a few times where I was shaking my head. But then again, this is the movie that was meant to clean up the mess The Last Jedi left behind. My second worst Star Wars movie. First being Attack of the Clones.
I don't like sand.
Ugh. Having to correct the mistakes that Rian Johnson made, J.J. Abrams had his work cut out for him, which would explain why there's so much fan service. Now when it comes to fan service, it can either be really good, or really bad. It's very rewarding to the longtime Star Wars fans, but to the critics, I mean the hardcore critics, not nearly as much. Now the fan in me loved it, but the critic in me thinks it could have been toned down just a little.
Okay, bud, let's take about 20% off her over there, eh?
But again, it was kind of needed after Last Jedi, which divided the saga arguably more so than the prequels. And that's an accomplishment and a half. That being said, this movie was made by the fans for the fans. Kind of like a Star Wars fan fiction. And I can confirm that lots of times, fan fiction can actually be better than the actual product. Look at all the expanded universe books, comics, video games that came before the great Disney purge.
Execute Order 66.
They started out as fanfics, but were beloved by most, if not all, the fans. Yuzhan Vong, Darth Caedus, who was the inspiration for Kylo Ren, believe it or not. Fun fact. Revan, Darth Nihilus, Darth Bane, Galen Merrick, aka Starkiller. The list goes on. Which is another thing. The movie relies a bit too much on background material that either has been released or will be released in the future. And while that's cool and all, it leaves a lot up in the air for Rise of Skywalker. But that doesn't change the fact I like the movie. Now let's talk about the biggest marketing ploy that they gave us in the form of the Senate himself, Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious. Don't worry, that's not too much of a spoiler. We've been knowing about him since the first trailer. He's back and stands in for Snoke, who was killed in the last film. Why? Just why? Now while they explain why he's back, they don't really explain how. I do feel like they threw him in just to reel the fanbase back in. But the way they do it, it almost seems poetic. And as the creator himself said,
again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
Personally, I was never much of a Palpatine fan. While I appreciate who and what he is, he was just never my kind of character. That was more along the lines of Darth Vader, despite the whiny, younger Anakin Skywalker.
I hate them!
Ugh. But in this movie, I do feel like Palpatine coming back was a smart move. Ending it all the way it began, Palpatine pulling the strings. It was very necessary. Now speaking of necessary, I don't care what people say. Rey, Finn, and Poe actually do have that camaraderie that we've seen in the past Star Wars films. Especially more so in this movie. While in the past it was more so fragmented. It was Poe and Finn and Rey. And then in this movie, all three of them, and we finally get that relationship between Poe and Rey. Rey and Poe didn't even really meet until the end of The Last Jedi. But in the gap between movies, you could tell that the three of them really became really close. Now while Rey is technically the main hero, it's really Kylo Ren who is the star of the whole trilogy. They gave him the best character arc, which by the end of it really makes you root for the guy. Now I've noticed people who don't really like Rey because they say she's overpowered, oh there's no way she could have done that without training, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. Rey was raised a survivor. She was a fighter. She was trained in combat, though trained herself. The only gripe I really had with her being OP is when she did the mind trick on the Stormtrooper in the first movie. That's really it. So take that, Rey haters. And Leia, oh my god, Leia! With the passing of the great Carrie Fisher, the fate of our rebel princess was very much in question. But how they handled it in this movie? Beautiful. Using old footage from The Force Awakens and some digital magic, they really gave Princess Leia and further Carrie Fisher the send-off she deserved. It paid off. But I'm not going to go too far into spoilers because I'm going by my new review structure, so minimal spoilers. If you want the spoiler-loaded review, go here. So, my final rating of the movie? I'm giving Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, a gallant rating of 3 out of 5. I really did enjoy the majority of the film. There were some parts I was very, very iffy on, and I had my gripes with the pacing, especially in the first act. But everything else, as a long-time Star Wars fan, as you can tell, I wholeheartedly enjoyed. Hell, I even teared up at a few parts. And the biggest thing about this movie is it is the end of the Skywalker saga. The end of the legacy of the Skywalker name. At least for now. And all in all, it's really a testament on how people are going to have different opinions, no matter what way you cut it. So with that, I leave you with a little bit of philosophy. Have your own opinion. Don't formulate it just based on what other people think, until after you've experienced it for yourself. You may be surprised. Let down? Sure. But at least you can say you experienced it. That's just what I go by. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching. I'm going to try and do reviews on other things other than games more often, whenever I can. In the meantime, I'm Gallant Havoc, and I will see you in the next one. May the Force be with you. Always.